To help us better understand these changes to temporary protective status designations, we are joined by immigration attorney Ricardo Skerrett. Mr. Skerrett, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me. It's always a pleasure to inform the community of things that may be happening around us.
Well, so now we know that the Supreme Court is allowing the Trump administration to get rid of these TPS designations for certain nations. What are the ramifications that this decision will have on potentially your clients?
What's happening is that now the Trump administration will be able to continue deporting the 2 million people that were allowed to come in under the humanitarian parole program of the past administration.
Okay, and now, so this impacts several nations, including Haiti, Cuba, Nicaragua, but really Venezuela, where 350,000 migrants are now at risk of deportation. Now, Florida does have a strong Venezuelan population, so how do you see this removal impacting the state as a whole?
Not only that, but Florida has the largest population of TPS holders as a whole. There's more than 350,000 people in Florida who enjoy TPS from different nationalities. So what's happening is that Trump is not renewing any of the TPS designations, and the one for Haiti is expiring very soon, and at the same time, the travel ban applies to Haiti. So Venezuela, Haiti, and Cuba have a lot of challenges because nationals from those countries will basically not be allowed to come into the U.S., and they will be deported if they're recent arrivals.
So what does this mean then for the migrants that came in here, especially in 2023 when the Biden administration had extended these services for people to give them that 18-month designation, I believe, to get their affairs in order so they can try to make legal entry into the states? How does that impact those people now that came here for a home and less than 2 years later are already looking to be forced out?
Those people, if they were granted parole, which they were, because, Biden granted 2 million people, 2 million humanitarian paroles. Those people, since they were paroled, the only avenue that many of them would have to be able to get their green card here in the U.S. would be if they have a relative who is a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident that can petition them, or most of them would have to request asylum, and it would be mostly a late asylum for most of them, and 87% of asylum cases do not get anywhere.
So is that the only option for people now that have had their status removed, is to go for asylum, or are there other avenues they can take to try to get back any sort of chance at a life in America?
They only have, if they have a valid claim to asylum, that's the only avenue that they have, and if they have a relative who can petition them, a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident. But if they're placing removal proceedings, the consular process, the family petition, for example, does not stop removal proceedings. So they're in a jam.
And then now too, Florida has been adamant at setting the bar a lot of times for some of these policies. They have encouraged law enforcement to act up with the 287 program, letting local law enforcement get involved with ICE. How do you see Florida kind of setting the stage again for allowing maybe mass deportations coming in through the state?
This is just starting, and it's going to continue. the latest poll says that 56% of Americans are in favor of mass deportations. While that number stays, the administration is going to keep on the mass deportations that they are, with the support of Republican governors like DeSantis.
Now, and a lot of times for that, with the idea is that it is a temporary status. So what difference does it make to have these, the TPS designations come to an end now, as opposed to, say, in the near or immediate future?
That's the issue. Temporary protective status is meant to be temporary. And for example, Honduras was granted TPS back in 1999 because of Mitch, the hurricane, and it's been renewed ever since continuously. And I don't think that Mitch is a tragedy in Honduras right now. So temporary protective status is not meant to become permanent. And the problem is that in many instances, it has become permanent, and that's not what the law intended.
And then for people that are impacted like this, especially when you look at Venezuelans, which will have to return to an area that has a lot of political turmoil, food shortages, or even Haiti that is still recovering from, I believe, the 2010 earthquake. what recourse do they have to maybe reapply or anything else? Is it wait for TPS status to reemerge, possibly through a future administration, or are they kind of stuck in legal limbo at this point?
They're going to be stuck in legal limbo if they don't seek asylum or some relative that can petition them. Those really are the two only avenues that they have.
And then finally, your message for any of your clients or any other people that could be fearful of TPS removal and immigration being cracked down a little bit harder there, do you have any sort of reassurance for them, or is this kind of where we are at this moment and we need to just see how things proceed?
They need to know their rights in case that they're detained by ICE or by immigration officials, and they need to know that they have certain constitutional rights, like, for example, a right to due process, their day in court, a right to a hearing, and the right to retain counsel, and the right to remain silent and not to incriminate themselves. So they should be aware of their rights, and at the same time, they should try to see how they can seek some kind of relief to stay here in the country.
Perfect. Well, Mr. Skerrett, thank you so much for joining us, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. We've got more great content for you, from news to the arts to the environment. So be sure to like and subscribe to WGCU's YouTube channel and follow us on our social media platforms for the stories that matter to you.